That's right, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here with the tropical update for September 17th of 2019. As always, brought to you by the good folks over there at Pine Belt Gutters. And as it says on here, hey, they do roofing too. Anyway, as we head through the next couple of days, plenty happening in the tropics. Of course, the peak of hurricane season was just a couple of days ago. Well, we're on the downhill slope, but you know, if you take a peek into the tropics right now, we're downhill nothing. Right now, we're just got Imelda this morning. Humberto still floating around. Hello, Jerry. Is up next as we head through the next couple of days with tropical depression number 10 out there. Like always, we'll start into the Gulf of Mexico because I know a lot of you folks around the Gulf are the folks who generally watch this. We've got Imelda over here. It's going to basically rain on Houston and South Texas a lot over the coming days, and a lot of people across parts of Texas are saying, well, that's good. We haven't had a lot of rain lately. This is going to be a nice change of pace. 6 to 10 inches of rain across the area, upwards of 15 probably in some places. There were models a couple of days ago, not even a couple of days ago, 12, 24 hours ago, that were kicking out 20 inches of rain locally in some spots. So this isn't a good ground soaking rain. This is going to be a flooding rain for them. And for you folks that watch this over in Houston, please kind of double check things and make sure you're paying very close attention to the forecast for your specific location as we head through the next couple of days, and then Humberto there on the other side of the map as well. We've got this little wave out here, which the National Hurricane Center is still not concerned about, but I'll explain why. We're keeping tabs on it over the next couple of days. That is tropical depression number 10. Another wave back over here, and then another one kind of back in behind that coming off of the African coast, and another one just on the African continent that's set to come off the coast as we head through the next couple of days. All right, let's start things out with a big one. It's Hurricane Humberto. I thought I updated this graphic for you guys. We've got fancy new colors and new graphics that Patrick whipped up. I was almost certain that I saved them. 105-mile-an-hour wind gusting to 125, 455 or 450 miles off to the west of Bermuda. And as of right now, the cone just off to the north. However, if you know folks that are headed to Bermuda, if you're going to Bermuda, if you've got family or friends that are living over there, just because the cone is just off to the north, this is a pretty massive hurricane. And yeah, the south side is skinnier than the north side, but there is still going to be impacts in terms of surge, showers and thunderstorms, and an increase in the wind for those folks. There's the fancy new graphics. I knew it was on here somewhere. Look at these. Aren't these neat? Great work from Patrick. Anticipated to be a Category 3 at some point before back down to a 2, so it could pass by Bermuda as a Category 3. So again, if you know folks down there, make sure that you give them the heads up. Back over to Imelda now with a wind at 40 miles an hour, gusting to 50, 1,006 millibars on the pressure, and you can see that it is blossoming this afternoon in terms of the overall convection in here. It was actually letting off some pretty good venting and some spray from this as we head through the overnight hours last night. Anticipated to be a tropical storm at landfall, which is going to happen here shortly, and then a tropical depression as it lifts off to the north. But notice how close, see how close these are stacked on top of each other from Wednesday, Thursday, morning and evening, morning and afternoon, I should say. It's not going to move very much, which is why we're concerned about the flooding potential for folks in South and East Texas, as well as parts of extreme southwestern Louisiana as we head through the next couple of days. There's even some chances that back here in South Mississippi, where we record these things, that we may get some spray from this in terms of some high clouds as we head through the next couple of days. Thankfully, for you folks not only in Texas, Louisiana, but for us here in South Mississippi, we're going to get a little backdoor front that slides through that's actually going to pick this thing up and push it off to the north and away from the coast and away from South Mississippi. That's not all, folks. So we also have tropical depression number 10, eventual Jerry out here. A wind currently at 35 miles an hour, gusting to 45, 1,007 millibars there. Moving to the west-northwest at 10 miles an hour, again about 1,100 miles off to the east of the Leeward Islands. This is anticipated to be a tropical storm and then eventually a Category 1 hurricane as it approaches the Greater and Lesser Antilles, the north side of them, and then Puerto Rico back over here should slide hopefully just to the north of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Notice what's also in the cone, the Bahamas. Unfortunately, those poor folks just can't catch a break this year. Back in behind that, there's a 20% chance of development for a little area right in here. Let's see if I can, there it is. Let's go back. Booyah. 20% chance of development here for this next wave that's coming off of the African coast. We're going to keep tabs on this one with a 20% chance in the next 5 days. I've got a feeling that that number is going to come up probably starting tomorrow, because I think we're going to have a better chance of genesis out here between days 5 and 6 and 7 as opposed to days 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then there's this other little area out here. And again, the National Hurricane Center not really concerned about this one as of yet. But this is going to kind of drift off to the west-northwest and northwest in between Cuba and Florida, and maybe just off to the south of that. We're going to have to pay attention to this the next couple of days, and that's going to eventually try and sneak into the Gulf of Mexico. Depending on which model you decide to look at, the GFS doesn't really say much about this thing, but the European model has been adamant over about the last 48 hours that this little cluster of stuff over here ends up at least close to the Gulf of Mexico and over the loop current and in an area where development could be possible. So we're keeping tabs on it. I don't care if the National Hurricane Center isn't concerned about it or not, or if they're busy looking at other stuff. I'm paying close attention to this for you folks across the Gulf of Mexico. Let's head back over to 10, and I want to highlight a couple of things with this as well. The HWRF model, which it tends to be a pretty decent model in terms of track, and it does an okay job with intensity in the short term. Through Friday at about 6, 7 o'clock, puts this thing in the north side of the Leeward Islands here. And then the HWRF is right in here. It takes it just off to the south of Puerto Rico, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. The rest of these models take this thing off to the north. So the argument becomes, which one do you trust? Do you trust the one outlier or basically everybody else? Right now, basically everybody else is what we're going to trust and what we're going to go with, and that's why the National Hurricane Center forecast cone takes this thing to the north and toward the Bahamas, but then kind of cuts it off right here, saying that it could be to the north side of that cone or could be to the south side, but the south side of the cone is north of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Now, the HWRF here has been shifting. Originally, it was right in line with all of these. It was moving off to the north and west, and then kind of back to the north, and then probably around to the northeast like everybody else. But it has been shifting to the southwest and moving more due west over time, over about the last 48 hours with this thing. So if this thing does stay to the south of the islands, then it becomes a concern more so for the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and then, of course, you know, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, maybe even Central and Latin America. So that's why we've got to keep close tabs on 10 back here. On top of that, we've got the one that's in front of it that we also want to keep tabs on. Okay, so here's Imelda, here's Humberto, there's number 10. Here's that little wave that I'm like thinking, let's keep tabs on this one. So Imelda moves ashore, there it comes. Here comes a little backdoor front that picks this thing up and kicks it off to the north. There's 10 just off to the north of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, according to the European model. Here's that little wave right here in the Bahamas. As we head through Saturday, we've got a ridge of high pressure that's just off to the north, clockwise flow around this at the lower levels. And again, we're talking about 700 down to the floor, not 700 and up to the top of the atmosphere. So what you end up with something that's loosely organized. It is it doesn't interact with the stuff from 700 up as much as it does 700 down. And again, 700 and 850, we're looking at 700 millibar moisture. That's the dry air in here. 850 vorticity. That's a little bit lower in the atmosphere. That's where we've got the spin. So when they're loosely organized and there's not really much happening with these things, they get steered by different currents than, say, something that maybe is a little more developed, or Humberto, as that thing moved out to sea. As we head through Sunday and into Monday, we're going to take this thing into the Gulf of Mexico. Notice there's still that big patch of dry air to the north. We still have that ridge of high pressure. Number 10 actually turns, according to the European model here, turns to the north and stays back out to sea. But this ridge in here continues to steer whatever is that wave into the Gulf of Mexico, and it's looking for a little break in this ridge to move to the north. The one place that I get, and the reason that I'm saying, hey, I'm paying attention to this, I don't care what anybody else is your loop current right now is coming up right in this area, and you've got a secondary area of warmer water right in here on the north side of Cuba. That means that you're going to have, and then you've always got the warm water in the straits between Florida and Cuba. That means you've got time as this thing is drifting into the Gulf of Mexico where it's got plenty of warm water to chow down on, if I'm going to make an analogy here. And it can eat its way all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the models keep it pretty loosely organized because even if it does get into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to have to battle the dry air from the ridge of high pressure. A little bit of shearing, not much, a little bit of shearing in the models right now. And it's in a okay environment, not great, not bad, it's an okay environment for some type of organization. So there are a lot of things that are still yet to be determined with this bad boy. Well, I'm not overly concerned about it yet. The reason that I'm talking about it isn't because I'm saying go buy your bread and milk right now or whatever. It's more so that you may not hear about this thing from anybody else over the next couple of days, which is fine. It's fine. But maybe keep it kind of in the back of your mind. We'll keep tabs on it around here, and you never know. Maybe in another model run or two, it just completely evaporates and goes away, and then we're all feeling pretty good. But right now, unfortunately, with an area into the Gulf of Mexico moving back to the north like that, it was reasonably small, pretty disorganized within the model, but those things change, unfortunately, especially with time. Looks like we got another one back over here and then another one back over here as we head through the end of the week next week and the end of September, though still, again, kind of in the peakish of hurricane season. A lot going on. There's a look at your tropical update for September 17th of 2019, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters. Again, we've got a couple of things to keep tabs on, nothing to worry about down here in South Mississippi or truly anywhere outside of Texas right now in terms of stuff happening in the tropics.